You've lived your life in a country that is at war with the world? How low would you have to go to save your 4-year-old sister from certain death, while your friends and neighbors are getting burned alive from firebombs? You're going to have to be willing to do anything in order to survive. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat famine and war in Grave of the Fireflies. This kid is going to regret ever being born. Seita here is your typical Japanese military brat who quickly reacts to the worst news he'll ever hear. Japan is about to be bombed to hell, and the air sirens blare everywhere around him, and people start to panic. He buries his family's emergency supply of food, while his mother gets his little sister here ready to go to the bomb shelter. The mother tells Seita that she'll go save them a seat in the bunker, while he secures the house and tells him to watch his little sister, Setsuko. Seita gets a hold of his adorable little sister and grabs the last of his things, right as the sirens blast one final time, and that's when they hear it. The air around them fills with the sound of thousands of whistles falling from the sky. They head outside and look up, seeing the end of their lives headed straight for them. It's a wave of bombs. A fiery hellstorm erupts around them while they take cover, coming out a second time to check and see if the coast is clear. But that's when everything around them blows up in flames, turning their little town into literal hell on earth. People lose their minds and begin to panic and begin running left and right through the streets. Seita takes Setsuko down to the beach, seeing the absolute carnage and death in the distance. Exhausted, he finds a sewer drain to take shelter in while they catch their breath. Okay, this is really bad. My hometown has just gone from peaceful and cute and cuddly to literal hell on earth. The world is at war, and now we're being invaded. Based on some of the signs like the announcement of the incoming air raid and Seita's preparation of emergency food underground, it's clear they knew this was coming and would have likely already been informed of the next steps to take. But that doesn't make this situation any less terrifying. Enemy planes have begun to firebomb the cities of Japan. It means that unlike regular high explosive bombs, the power and appeal of a firebomb is that their destruction can actually have an even greater impact on cities than a regular bomb could ever have. Because as long as it hits something flammable, the fire will spread, and the destruction will spread even further into areas outside of the bombing zone. And our mom! Why didn't she take us with her? Now we're all alone with a cute but totally useless toddler that can't help us for shit. Now I like taking naps in a good sewer as much as the next guy, but these kids, using the sewers to hide in theory sounds like a great plan, but it could actually be their worst move if they don't want to die a horrible death. Because while hiding underground could prove to be useful, not knowing the layout of it means that they're going into this thing totally blind. And from the air raids happening all around us, it's very possible that our town's area utilities have been taken out, such as the water supply and gas mains. And that means that the idea of trying to hide out, or possibly even worse, find our way through the sewers that could be full of potential leaked gas and has the possibility to flood is a terrible idea, because we have to remember that we're traveling with a child. That being said, by running to the beach, we've accidentally figured out that the firebombing is centered largely in the urban areas of the city. Look at this right here. You'll notice that while the city itself is engulfed in flames, the coastlines are fine for now. This means that our best bet would be to not stay here, but to evacuate from this heavily populated urban area, which is a prime target for these firebombs. By using the coastline to travel on for as long as we can, preferably migrating to the nearby villages and less populated areas while we figure out our next step, as long as smoke inhalation is not an issue. Seeing that the coast is clear, they go to check out the damage. Setsuko wants her mommy, and Seita tells her that she'll likely find them at the Nipponmatsu station. The two then head off through a war-torn city, desperate to find their mother. The corpses begin piling up everywhere they turn, and Seita hears an announcement from the military. Everyone still alive must head back to the nearby school for first aid and to regroup. Setsuko's eyes then begin to hurt from the rain. All the ash in the air has begun to pollute the clouds above them. Seita takes her to the school to get some help. There they run into this lady, a family friend of their mother. She tells Seita the worst news of all. His mother has been critically injured and is covered in 2nd and 3rd degree burns all over her body. The doctor gives him her ring, and he walks him over to see his mother, a wannabe corpse. The doctor tells Seita that she'll die if she doesn't get to a proper hospital. Seita reveals to the doctor that his mother has a heart condition and needs her medicine just to survive, making the situation even more desperate. And you want to know what the doctor prescribed? A dose of Honkai Star Rail. This free-to-play RPG from HoYoverse, the makers of Genshin Impact, will send you on this out-of-this-world experience where you and your senses can embark on immersive sci-fi adventures, meet acquaintances with captivating backstories, and save the world along the way. This RPG is for everyone to play anytime and anywhere while enjoying the star-studded voice cast with 4 different languages. On the go, no problem. Honkai Star Rail is a multi-platform game that can be played on PC or mobile, so you'll never have to step off the interstellar train called the Astral Express. Meet dozens of extraordinary characters with magnificent outfits and lifelike expressions that suit your unique personal style, while you battle through a universe that spans thousands of years. You'll never get bored. As a trailblazer, you can journey through a sci-fi world that's packed with in-game lore and multiple side stories. Rally and develop the combat skills of an intimidating team to battle alongside of. Expect orbital cannons, ice walls, full-fledged armies, and much more in this alluring anime-style RPG. Reach the end of the universe and you'll be rewarded with learning the truth about yourself. Can't wait to join in on the breathtaking adventure with beautiful animations and music this RPG promises? Then pre-register for Honkai Star Rail using the link in the video's caption. Thank you for our sponsor for today's video, Honkai Star Rail. Now back to the depressing lives of Seita and Setsuko. Okay, we're just a skip and a hop away from being totally clinically insane. This is horrible. Our mommy, your mommy, has officially become the worst mother of the year. Sorry, but it's true. Because at this point, staying in town has proven to be a terrible idea. But even if we have to be with our mother, let's face the facts. She's covered in 2nd and 3rd degree burns, and this is what makes it a huge problem. Most can survive a 2nd degree burn affecting 70% of the body area, but few can survive a 3rd degree burn affecting 50% or more of the body. And our inept, useless mother is likely in a state of burn shock, where her body's vital tissues and organs are failing to receive adequate blood flow, and judging by the incredibly high standards of this hospital and this wannabe doctor over here, it's likely that she's not going to survive much longer in this state, meaning that staying with our mother is not going to do us any good. It's only going to be a matter of time before vital supplies run out. The doctor already told Seita that they don't have enough medical supplies here. What do you think's going to happen as the hours roll on? There's going to be nothing for nobody. And because of this, everyone around us will soon get desperate. Because after all, desperate people can do terrible things. It is known by now that Japan committed an act of war back on Pearl Harbor, and these air raids, while horrifying, are just the beginning. We need to get out of here while there's still time. We already know that we stashed some supplies back at our house, meaning that if we can get to it while we still can, if I was Seita, I'll leave my little sister in the care of that family friend and head over to retrieve the supply stash first. And then I'm taking my little sister and we're gonna leave first thing in the morning. Leaving while it's daylight will allow us to check for any more incoming air raids and will allow us to look around for anything useful that we may need for future survival, such as towels, water, food, possible medical supplies. People are gonna figure out that there's no food, there's no medical supplies, which means we have to leave while the getting's good. We gotta get out of Dodge and secure better lodgings. Putting on a brave face, Seita goes back out to meet his sister and gives her their mother's ring to keep safe. He tells her that their mother is heading to a hospital in the area of Nishinomiya, and it just so happens that their aunt lives in the same city and will keep them safe while their mother recovers. But they do not realize that this is the beginning of the end for their entire family. The two siblings head to the town where their aunt lives, and they both get settled into their new home. And one day, their aunt mentions how nice their life must be since their father is in the Navy. A few days later, Seita returns to his war-torn village and retrieves his family's emergency ration of food, finding a special gift for Setsuko, a can full of candy. He brings back the supply of food to his aunt's house, thinking that this food will solve all of their problems forever. Later, the aunt goes through Seita's recent food haul, astonished at all the tasty nom-noms. She tells Seita how lucky his family must be to get soldier privileges, like delicious great food during wartime. She then asks him if he's heard from his mother, but that's when Seita's face begins to quiver. He tells her that his mother died this afternoon while Setsuko was at school, and tells the aunt not to tell Setsuko, and she agrees. But then she also requests that he write to his father immediately. Over the next few weeks, Seita tries to bury his heartbreak emotions and keep Setsuko happy, taking for a walk that night and showing her the fireflies in their garden. He then surprises her with her favorite treat, the last treat that she will ever get in her life, a fruit drop candy. The next day, the aunt begins to get impatient with Seita and his sister and asks if he's heard from his father back in the Navy, but Seita tells her that his dad hasn't written back yet, and it's strange, and the aunt wonders what's going on. Later at dinner, they get word from the aunt's husband that the future of the war is beginning to look more and more hopeless day by day. Factories are closing down, and food is becoming harder to find. The husband gets another bowl full of vegetables, while Seita and Setsuko only get clear soup. Oh, I hate that aunt. I know we're in a horrible situation because unlike evil monsters or death games, this situation is getting worse and worse by the day. We've now just heard air raids all the way out here, which means that even in the countryside where it's supposed to be safe, we've basically traveled from one dangerous hotspot to another. Somehow these kids are still able to get to the beach and back to their aunt's house. That is not far enough, folks. You need to get farther inland. That is not far enough. And while yes, we found a stable-ish source of food from our mean coronavirus of an ant. We need to pick up the signs that this ant is dropping down right now because she has grown tired of keeping us here. And now she's only giving certain special foods to her family members and tricking us into selling our mother's clothes. While this could be looked as her simply defending her own family over us, either way, the outcome is the same. We were not meant to stay here for this long. Our aunt was thinking that we would just stay here for a few weeks, and now we could be here forever. And again, with food being rationed, tensions being high, people will only start to become more desperate and look out for their own people, which me and my little sister are not a part of in this house of hers. We can't go back. We can't live out on the streets. We have to add value to this household beyond our usual amount, because honestly, up until this point, Seta really hasn't done much to help out. They need to start becoming invaluable to this household, from offering to do chores that nobody wants to do, essentially becoming this aunt's little slave. While this will be lame as hell, you know what's less lame? Not starving on the streets with nowhere to go. The next few weeks, Seta tries to shield Setsuko from the dead bodies quickly piling up, and they hear word from around town that the full-on invasion of Japan is imminent. Seta tries to remain calm, but Setsuko slowly gets hungrier and hungrier by the day. The townsfolk begin to get even more desperate, selling whatever things they have to in order to buy more food. Seta's aunt goes ahead and does the deed and sells their dead mother's clothes, and Setsuko is forced to watch all traces of her mother disappear. The days pass by and they begin to run into the same problem again: no food. The aunt gives her daughter and husband rice, while she tells Seta and Setsuko that they aren't deserving of something so valuable anymore. She scolds them for being lazy and tells them that they don't deserve as much as the people working hard for their nation during the war. What is her problem? Does she have any soul, any heart at all? Her "I'm fine with you guys staying here" tank has clearly run out. The war is getting worse and supplies are dwindling, and the aunt is acting like a total D. Some would say that she's acting like how anyone would in times of desperation such as these, because unfortunately, desperate times tend to bring out the worst in people trying to survive. So that means I'm done. I'm gonna take my 4-year-old little sister and find someone else who has a soul and a heart and is willing to take us in. I'm willing to work for food to take care of my little sister so she doesn't die. I'm going to wait until the next salary payment that the husband and, if possible, the daughter receive, and would either A, steal the money if it was placed inside the house along with the remaining supplies before getting out of Dodge with my little sister, or B, wait until the family gets their next paycheck, of which they would use to buy more supplies of food, which we would steal and run away during the middle of the night when they're asleep. We'll have the food that we need and we'll be long gone before they wake up. Still hungry, Setsuko asks for more rice, but the aunt tells her that everything must now be rationed. She gets annoyed and casually asks Seta if they have any other relatives that they could stay with, because now they are running out of food too. Knowing it's only a matter of time, Seta goes to the bank the next day and takes out his mother's savings, 7,000 yen. He tells Setsuko that now they'll be able to live like kings, giving her one more fruit candy drop. After they go buy cookware and food for themselves and enjoy the next week living it up. But soon rations of food get even more expensive, and their mother's money quickly runs out. Even Setsuko's fruit candy gets finished. To make her happy, he pours water into the container and makes her fruit-flavored water, and his little sister savors every bit of what will be the final treat that she ever has. The next day, the aunt breaks Seta's final straw, and he leaves the house with Setsuko, telling her that they'll get out of her hair, and this aunt does nothing to stop them from leaving. Seta tells Setsuko that now they'll live in the air raid shelter nearby, where they'll be able to live freely and without any worries or have to answer to anyone else. Sounds blissful, but that was their biggest mistake. They get the supplies for their new home and begin scavenging for goods and doing what they can to get by, even catching some fireflies that night to light up their dark shelter. The next morning, Setsuko complains and asks Seta, why do all the young fireflies have to die so soon? Crumbling apart inside, Seta ignores her and tries to keep his composure, thinking of his very crispy dead mother and his missing father. He is now near his breaking point. The days pass by and their situation becomes more hopeless. They run out of things to trade for food, and the farmers have nothing to spare anymore. And the both of them begin to get more and more hungry. This farmer, knowing Seta's aunt, tells Seta to swallow his pride and return to her, but he refuses. That night, he gets caught trying to steal his neighbor's vegetables, getting badly beaten in the process before being sent to the police station. This cop lets him off of the hook, telling him that the food situation will only get worse in Japan, and that he needs to find someone to take care of him and his little sister. The next day, Seta comes up with a plan and begins raiding people's houses during the air raids, running through the terrifying fires and destruction in order to retrieve food for his little sister. But he finds that no one has anything left to offer. He then heads home and lays eyes on his sister, who now can barely stand up. Concerned, he finally takes her to the doctor, but it's here that he tells Seta that all Setsuko needs is food in order to get better. Livid, frustrated beyond belief, Seta demands him, where do they get food? Where is it? Where can he find food? He tells Seta that that he doesn't know, and also tells Seita that Setsuko doesn't have much time left. Okay, this is crazy, because right now the situation is not good. We're severely underestimating the harsh realities of our situation, and now we're on the brink. The most terrifying part about all of this is what our sister has complained of, and has now begun showing signs of sickness, rashes on the skin, and diarrhea, and they are common signs of malnutrition. And the doctor now just confirmed it. But even though we've been eating what we could find, it hasn't been enough. And given the fact that Setsuko is below the age of 7, that means her immune system is even more fragile. And the signs showing up on her body means that they are both deep in the third phase of starvation, where their fat reserves have now been depleted, and now the body is eating its own muscle, its own protein to use as energy, causing the cell function within Setsuko's body to die. We have hardly any time left to save her. Scavenging for food is not gonna work. We already tried that. We need a guaranteed steady supply of food, and we also need medicine, both of which we do not have. The most logical thing we could do in this situation would be to desperately do everything in our power to locate, find, and get to a Japanese monastery. Due to their very nature, they're very likely to be sympathetic to our situation. They will have food, and they have medicine to spare. We don't have any more time, folks. We have to do something, or our little sister is going to die. Desperate, he takes out the last of his mother's savings, and he hears from these strangers that Japan has officially lost the war. He asks them if they know what happened to the Navy, and they tell him that almost all of it has been destroyed. He begins to panic and asks what happened to his dad, but no one knows anything, and he begins to realize the worst. Daddy died. Moving on. Defeated, he quickly heads back home with more food, but it's too late. He sees his sister lying like a corpse and finds her hungrily chewing on marbles. She tells Seita that she's made him some rice balls to eat, but all he sees in her hands are stones. Terrified for his sister, he tells her that he's going to quickly make her some food, but she stops him and thanks him for everything he's done. Closing her eyes, she takes a nap. Seita panics and quickly rushes to go make some food, not realizing that Setsuko will never wake up. The next day, Seita prepares for his sister's cremation and later puts her ashes in her favorite tin of fruit candy, and he decides to leave the shelter for good. A few weeks later, a janitor finds Seita malnourished and on the brink of death and holding his sister in his hands. The janitor ignores him and takes the fruit candy box, leaving him to his dark fate, because he dies too. The janitor takes the fruit candy box and throws it outside. Setsuko's ashes spill onto the grass, awakening the fireflies nearby, and Setsuko's spirit awakens, playing around on the grass, and sits with Seita, longing for the day when she can have her fruit drop candy once again.
And if you don't want to end up like Fruit Drop Candy, go and like, comment, let us know what you like, and of course, didn't like, don't forget to check out the How to Be playlist down below.